Hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This show comes to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. Well, this week I want to talk about kids. The innocence of kids. That's really what I want to talk about. This show is brought to you by an organization called Million Kids, millionkids.org. We've been in business 14 years, almost 15 now. For many years, we served as a training and outreach coordinator for the Riverside County Human Trafficking Task Force. Those guys and gals have been very, very busy this last week. We'll have a whole bunch of announcements next week. And I know that there are over 100 arrests last month. The month of January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And so the federal government joins with the local government, and they increase the amount of undercover stings that they do to go out and find victims of human trafficking and rescue them, and also to charge those people that might be pimping them, and even in some cases charging people that might be purchasing that, especially if it's from an underage child. So you will be seeing a whole lot of announcements coming out probably this next week. But what I wanted to share with you this week is I want to talk a little bit about the innocence of kids. I also want to share with you something that is very, very heavy on my heart. For the last 15 years, everybody's kindness of donations and financial support and grants and like that have helped us be able to have this ministry of being able to educate the public about how to keep our kids safe from predators, whether it's an online predator, one of those dating sites or a hookup site or a video game chat room, or some crazy kid decides to send a nude, or they meet up with a gang member or someone that seduces them into thinking they want to do commercial sex, and their life changes. And that has been our ministry and our goal for the last 15 years. However, we have reached a fork in the road, and I just need to be real upfront about it. We will probably only have 2 more of these shows airing because, quite frankly, the funding has become very difficult to obtain. We need to obtain a sponsor to be able to stay on the air. So if you know somebody that wants to sponsor a show that keeps kids safe from predators, please call me or email me at opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. In the meantime, I want to share with you some thoughts I have about kids. I'm getting on the higher end of the generation here that's out beating the streets and trying to save kids. But I just love little kids. And this Sunday, I go to a church. I guess I can give you the name of it. There are several churches within Inland Empire that support our work, by the way. And I so much admire you and appreciate you and all of you that have done fundraisers and sent money and like that. My particular church is Emmanuel Lutheran over here in Riverside. They don't know I'm saying this, by the way. I'm not being encouraged to promote them. I'm not. But they have a church school attached to them. And that is one of the things I love because of the fact that in my case, I spend my life trying to keep kids safe from predators. And it is such a pleasure. That church is only kindergarten through 6th grade, I think. But they have these things. And this last week, they had kindergartners and first graders up there singing and carrying on. And what a delight to see these little kids, especially in a world where I live, where you have kids that grow up and go and put themselves through heartache and make decisions that cause them heartache, or somebody else is abusing and exploiting them, and they have a life of heartache. And I looked at those little kids, and it just makes my heart. I think God just must giggle when he sees all these little kids up there having a great time, being innocent, loving each other, and like that. Now, they're not all totally innocent. I heard a minister say, if you don't believe there's evil in the world, you haven't been to the church nursery. I like that one, okay? Because all of us have the capability of good and bad. And I often wonder what makes somebody turn out one way or turn out the other. And it's really a complex issue. I've been studying it because I have this week, I will be doing a presentation for one of the offices of education. I won't get the name out. And they asked me for a motivational speech on human trafficking. And I'm like, oh, this ought to be good. Rah, 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 How does this go? But there really are many, many positive things we can do with our young people that kind of helps bulletproof them about becoming victims. One of the things that kind of geared this show for me is I saw a BBC interview on arts in motion. If you want to look it up yourself, it's probably on YouTube, I would guess, but if not, go to BBC. And the headline on it is Brian, Brian, Brian Cox, and why you should keep your inner child alive. And it is a delightful interview. We have a team of researchers here at Million Kids that go out and make public speeches and like that. And we share information between us. And it's a lot of negative information about things like how a child becomes a victim of child pornography, or how a young 14-year-old girl ends up being trafficked and being seduced into it, and like that. So we see a lot of the negative stuff. But I was just taken this week. I think God's talking to my heart about how to work with young people so they don't grow up becoming victims of any kind of exploitation. Now, some of them are born into homes and family units that they can't avoid it. And it changes who they are for the rest of your life. And if you're one of those people that grew up in that environment, one of the things I would encourage you to do is to find a solid psychological counselor that you can work through those years that you have baggage, okay, where it all didn't go the way you want. Because when that happens to you at a young person, it will form the kind of parent that you are with your children or your grandchildren. And it's very important that you work your way through that so that you yourself are healthy. I met a psychologist once, Dr. Gary Jorgensen, up in Utah, University of Utah. What a phenomenal individual. I believe he's still alive, but he's probably in his 90s by now. But I remember one of the things that he taught me, and it made a big, big difference. And he said, we were in a conference where there were probably 200 people in the room. And he said, how many of you had something horrible happen in your early teenage years, like a death, the death of your grandmother, or the death of a parent, or maybe a divorce in the family, or your parents got a divorce, or your grandparents got a divorce, or maybe you lost your home, or your family became unemployed. And different people raised their hand in the group. And it was a fascinating experience because Dr. Jorgensen said at the time, how old were you? Were you 13, 14, or 15? And he called them the life event years. And he said, what happens to you when you're 13, 14, and 15 will often drive your life for the rest of your life if you don't stop and work through the complexity of the issue as an adult. And it was a fascinating kind of thing because one of the things that I deal with is how to help kids not become victims of especially sex trafficking. The most likely victims are foster, homeless, runaway, and pregnant kids. Any child that endured some trauma during the time that they were 13, 14, and 15. And it's an interesting thing at that because I see situations on a regular basis where you'll have a brilliant young lady who's 13 or 14, but she thinks poorly of herself and she cannot get over the fact that she might not be valuable of her own accord. And that's when she begins to look outside for other people to take care of her. And that is one of the most vulnerable situations for anybody that has had that kind of pain that they have not worked through it. I say that as a parent, if you're still dealing with those things in your childhood, believe it or not, there will be things that will play out in your way that you raise your own children. And you want the very best for your children, but you yourself have unresolved issues. And so I just want to bring those kinds of things up, because one of the most important things in keeping a person being vulnerable to trafficking or exploitation online is having a strong self-esteem. But a lot of people think self-esteem is something you're born with. It's in your DNA. That is a lie, and we're going to talk about it in the next section. It is break time, folks, so stay with us. We're going to be right back. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of MillionKids.org. I believe the 4 most powerful words on earth are I believe in you. So we created a challenge coin that says, I believe in you on one side and stand tall, you are loved on the other side. This one-of-a-kind challenge coin is a perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, graduation, Christmas presents, or just an anytime gift for someone you love. What a powerful message for a parent or a grandparent to give to a young person. This 2-inch coin is made of polished gold. It's striking to look at, and it is priceless to hold. It is packaged in a beautiful black velvet gift box. What a great way to leave a legacy of love that will last forever. To purchase this coin, go to millionkids.org/gallery. Each coin is $25. Go to millionkids.org/gallery to purchase and give a legacy of love.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and we're talking about how to deal with young people, little kids, and help them have strong self-esteem so that when they grow up, they do not be violated. I share this because we know that 60% of kids in sex trafficking come from foster care. Well, that's not hard to understand. And when I work with schools and I work with group homes and foster agencies and like that work with young people, we talk about the importance of this, because if you're a foster child, you've gone through some sort of loss, and loss is deep when you're a young person, especially if you're like 13, 14, or 15, but even if you're a little kid, because suddenly you blame yourself. It's like families that get a divorce and they set their kids down and go, now this is not about you, it's about us. Mommy and daddy can't get along. That's crap. That kid's looking at you like you lying through your teeth. It is about me, because if you didn't think I was more valuable, you'd stay right here. And that is what they're processing, and they're not really believing the story that you're putting out. But it's about loss, and a kid, especially young kids, will blame themselves if they were better, if they were friendlier, if they were prettier, if they were smarter, if you loved them more, if they could be more lovable. All of this would not be going on. It is a way to deal with what you cannot control. And that is exactly how quickly it happens when you start to get into your teen years. I remember an encounter I had one time. A friend of mine gave me a gift certificate to Kelly's Spa at the Mission Inn. And I don't normally hang out there, by the way. That was a gift. And it was a beautiful experience, but it was one time. I don't normally go there, but I'll never forget, as I was waiting to go in to get my facial or whatever, I met a lady there, don't know anything about her or her name, but she made an impression on me by a statement she made. She was about 6 or 7 months pregnant. And she said, I'm so excited. This is my first child. And then she got really quiet and she said, I really hope it's a good child. You never get to pick, and you don't know, and not everybody has a good child. And that just really, I never thought about it, because There's all kinds of children in the world, and they require a tremendous amount of parenting. And I am no expert on parenting, okay? You're going to be more of an expert than I am. But I thought to myself, all the challenges of being a parent. Part of it is that you need to be healthy yourself. You need to have worked through things yourself. But if that child is engaged in something that is painful for that child, it will be with them for the rest of their life, no matter how much they try to overcome it. I loved this thing at BBC with this interview with Brian Cox that I was talking about. I highly recommend that you look at it. He's an actor, but he is saying in there that, you need to keep your inner child alive. And I thought, well, that sounds like so much gobbledygook. That's because I'm not all that much of a psychologist. But he had a point there. He said, look at this. You are that little girl, even if you're 85, even if you're 25, even if you're still only 16, or you're 55 and you're the CEO of a company. You are that little girl. You are that little boy. He even said, because these people are actors that he's training, carry a photograph of yourself as a child, because that child in you is what you have to protect. And that's a fascinating thing, because as you're raising children and grandchildren, you are raising children that one day they will have to learn to protect themselves. I think one of the things to talk about is, and I talk about this when we talk about, motivational messages on how to combat trafficking. One of them is to teach your child to recognize, especially your teenage children. I say this because our teenage children make their relationships in an online environment where they cannot tell who they're really talking to. I mean, in the old days, you and I could see the kid down the street and whether or not we really liked him. And, if he's living in mom's basement and he only bathes on Tuesday, you can see that if you know them. But this generation, they're going to make relationships online. And they're not going to be able to tell if that person on the other side is really a hot, good-looking 14-year-old thing, okay? Or some cartel over in Nigeria trying to seduce them into sending a 14-year-old picture in the nude, or somebody who's taking a deep fake with artificial intelligence and modifying their facial image with a nude photo so they can start to blackmail them. Our kids are going to live in a world unlike anything you and I have ever lived in. In fact, this is the reason I'm so passionate about this ministry. I believe we've got to get this one right. Okay, this generation of kids is the first generation in all of history that can reach the entire world, but the whole world can reach them, including gangs, including cartels, including pedophiles, including child predators, including blackmailers, and including artificial intelligence who wants to modify their image to make money off of us, whether you're 13 years old or 85 and you think you're in a hot online relationship. We've entered a different world. I wrote a book about this, Societal Shift, A World Without Borders, A Home Without Walls. This generation will be the first generation that sets the stage and sets the rules and sets the protocol for all future generations. And so we got to get this right. They're the first one that is in a globally connected world, a home without walls, a world without borders. And they are going to teach the younger generation on how you make these relationships. The problem of it is they go in with this same inner child as they make relationships in person. The need to be loved, the need to be recognized, the need to be right, the need to win, especially if you're in a video game, the need for approval and the need for inclusion. All of those needs are still there in a child, but now they are getting them from online fulfillment where you cannot verify who you're talking with. So some of the things that I teach when we go out and speak with kids, and we're getting ready to do a whole bunch of it in the next month or so, Is this an empowering relationship or is it an exploitive relationship? Are you the better person for it? Or are you going to be a person that gets hurt here or gets harmed in some way? The first thing we can verify on how you can verify if it's an empowering relationship or exploitive is, do they want your nude? Because anybody who sends a nude pic or asks for a nude pic is not your friend. One of the projects that Million Kids has undertaken, and I'm just proud as punch of it, we have the lady that does all of our marketing and our online marketing. If you're not a member of millionkids.org, please do so. You'll get the best information. But she raised 20 foster kids and she adopted 12 of them. And so one of the things they did is create some videos that are only 1 and 2 minutes long for other kids, because our kids have short attention spans, by the way. That's why. And it's all about texting, and you're going hot and heavy and it's looking good, and then bow, they want a nude pic. Stop, think it over. You haven't sent it yet. You don't really know who that is. And where do nude pics go when you hit send online? That's the crazy thing. That is not an empowering relationship. Anybody who wants your nude pic is not empowering you. They are sucking you into a trap where your life is about to change forever. And I don't know why on earth we don't have PSAs that say that over and over and over to our children, because we're in that generation that does that. I've often thought I'd like to get a hold of Melania Trump, because that's one of her things, is be best and don't get yourself caught up by sending one of those nude pics, because your life is going to change forever if you do that. But why would somebody do that? Why is it that 60% of kids in sex trafficking come from foster care? They have a hole in their heart as big as the sky. They are great kids. There are so many talented kids that are in foster care, so many smart kids, so many streetwise kids, but they need someone to give them inclusion and give them support and let you know that you believe in them. That is why we sell the challenge coins, by the way. I believe the 4 most powerful words on earth are I believe in you. And that's important whether you're 63 or a 14-year-old foster kid. Every one of us, and whether you're a wife or a husband, by the way, every one of us wants to know that somebody believes in us. It's break time, folks. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton. We're talking about how to empower our kids so that they become leaders and they don't end up being exploited. You know, the thing I have learned about this as I've worked the last 15 years is I've never met a kid yet that wants to be exploited, but they don't know how to protect themselves because they don't understand quite how it all works. And part of this has to do with self-esteem. When I deal with people that say, how do we bulletproof our kids? You know, it's an interesting discussion, especially if you're working with children who have already most of their life have endured some sort of exploitation, because you don't really have something to work with. As you're growing up, if you're in a family that's split up, or if you're being sexually violated or physically violated, or if there's a divorce, a lot of negativity and infighting where the parents put each other down, that's a horrible environment for a child, because a child is like a sponge, and you can say, well, do as I say, not as I do, and that's crap, okay? I think I'm allowed to say that online, because kids are like sponges, and you're the parent, and they are attached to you, and they are going to duplicate how you behave. Now, as teenagers, we can have that discussion. As young people, we can have that discussion, and we can help them turn it around. If you have a child that has been in some environment where they have been compromised either emotionally or physically, it is important for you to stop in your tracks and start to develop a way to help that child become stronger in their self-esteem. So many kids I talk to think they just naively believe, and quite frankly, many parents and adults naively believe that self-esteem is, in the DNA. Now, I've often thought about that in depth. I've had a lot of research and discussion about that, because you do see generation to generation of people who feel bad about themselves, who are timid, who let other people walk over them, who maybe can't make a decision, or they don't respond like a normal, mature adult who's worked through those issues. And one of the things I say with kids is help them understand self-esteem is a gift you give yourself. It is not in the DNA. It is based on your thinking process and your decisions that you make. Some people just simply make decisions that I'm valuable. Their family has already made that decision, and they've been brought up in that family. It wasn't me, by the way, but, they were brought up in a family where everybody seemed to have it all together. But most families are not like that. It's important to sit down and talk with kids about, how do you feel about yourself? I always say one of the things that you should do is take inventory of yourself. What are you good at? What are you not so good at? And then take inventory of your values, and do it as a family. Sit down and write down your values. I know it's that you normally don't steal, but if you had an opportunity to do something where you didn't get caught, do you believe that it's okay to do that? Know who you are and what you stand for. But self-esteem is not in the DNA. It is a decision you make about yourself. And I talk with kids out there, especially the Empowering Young Women conference is coming up with Dale Roberts and his wife, and they're wonderful, wonderful people. And I love the opportunity to do that, because you're talking to all these kids that maybe didn't grow up on the right side of the tracks and like that, and yet you look at them and you go, you have so much potential. If we can get you to understand your own value, that you are as good as you decide to be. And this is what we talk about, is that it's a gift you decide. You decide, I'm valuable. I'm not going to become a victim of trafficking because I'm too good for that. I'm not going to let somebody come along and say to me, "Oh, baby, I'll be there for you and I'll take care of you," and blah blah blah. Why do you need somebody to take care of you? You are valuable, and once you decide, you can take care of yourself. And the value of being able to take care of yourself is you get to decide what you do, not somebody else. And you get to decide if it's in your values or not in your values. That is the common line for every pimp I've ever met. "Oh, baby, I'm going to take care of you. I'm sorry your dad wasn't there for you. Your mom's boyfriend's a creep." They have all of these lines where they suck this girl in and think that she thinks, "Oh, no, he really loves me. He wants to take care of me." Taking care of you is not the same as loving you. Loving you means to value you as you are, not to go in and change everything about you. So I talk to kids about empowering relationships and exploitative relationships, okay? And I talk about self-talk. This is one of the things that we need to talk about with our kids. Self-talk is, I learned this from a guy that I never met, by the way. I read all of his books. It was Dwayne Dyer. I think he might be 85, 90 years old by now. I don't know. But he's still alive. I still look him up. And it's an amazing thing because he will teach you, okay, up until now, you've been hard on yourself. If you make a mistake, well, I'm an idiot, well, I didn't expect anything better out of myself. I screw up all the time. What is it that one, I forgot it, Tim Waltz said, "Okay, I'm a fuddy-duddy," or whatever he said, knucklehead, I think he said. That's not good self-talk. Self-talk says, "I am good," okay? Maybe I'm not perfect, but I do my best and I will succeed. It is what I choose to do. I am valuable. Okay, so I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But I am choosing to change once I make my mistakes. They are not there forever. They don't define me who I am. Even if they're big mistakes, I will choose a different path. When I make mistakes, I forgive myself and I forgive others. I think about that we say the Lord's Prayer at church all the time, and I forgive those that trespass against me. And you say, really, do you? Do you forgive yourself? That's really where it has to start. I want to do what's right for myself and for others. That's very, very important. If given a choice of doing right and wrong, I believe in myself, I am valuable, and I will choose what is right. I will not let somebody else undermine or control me in the name of love. And that is so important because that is how you end up sending a nude pic online or going off with some guy or girl who's going to make your life instantly better. And you find out that the price is so great that your life has changed forever and not for the better. Once we decide we're valuable, we can proceed our life as if we're valuable. I am a winner. I will succeed. I want to do something good with my life. Those kinds of affirmations, if we can teach them to our children, will help them take the high road. Okay, so you took the low road a couple of times and it hurt and you paid the price. But you learn from that and now you're going to soar on. One of the things, I don't like to get political in my work because I think people on both sides of the aisle are good people. But I admire what is going on in our society to put those fake values away and start to begin to say, this nation is going to be a nation of justice and honesty and appreciation of each other. It's going to be chaotic, but we have the rule of law and we're going to follow it. And I love that. So teaching our kids about empowering relationships and exploitative relationships. Are you in a relationship where somebody's doing all the demanding and you're doing all the giving? That's not a relationship. That's a negotiation and you're losing. You're talking to someone online you don't know, and the first thing they do is move you from one app to the other, or they suggest that you get off the dating site and talk directly. Pay attention to all of that. They're trying to get control of you. Maybe they tell you this is our little secret. Really? Why does it have to be a secret? If you can't be proud of who you are and what you're doing, and that's true of you, Mom and Dad, too, because if you're thinking of doing something that you're not proud of, trust me, your whole family will pay the price in that kind of thing. So take the high road, do what is right, do what you can be proud of. If somebody's saying, let's don't tell, hey, that doesn't mean there can't be confidentialities and secrets. But if somebody is trying to lure you in a relationship that is secret, that is a huge red flag that you better run, baby, run. Okay? That's how it gets, because it is not going to be an empowering relationship. It is up to us as parents and grandparents to teach this generation of kids how to live their lives in a way they're proud of themselves and proud of others. It is break time, folks. This is Opal. We'll be right back.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited, Crimes and Technology. We are talking about the power of childhood and the power of relationships that are empowering relationships, and how to tell the difference between empowering and exploitive relationships. One of the things that I share with kids, especially if they've been abused in their life, if they've come from a broken home, if they've been in a situation where they're in the foster agency, is our kids need to hear this, because I'm going to tell you right now, if they get involved in trafficking or exploitation, that predator, that pedophile, that pimp is going to tell them this, that you are so damaged that you cannot ever be okay again, and that you have to do as I say and do as I do. And this is the reason why it is so hard to get kids out of trafficking. When I talk with kids, I say it right out there. There is no such thing as damaged goods. I think that every one of us needs to hear that, especially if they're faith-based, because they're forgiven of their sins if they will accept it. But what we need to understand is the prison-like environment that creates on you psychologically if you've made a mistake and somebody else is trying to exploit you. They'll tell these sex trafficking victims, oh man, your picture's all over the internet, everybody knows, and you can't go home. And the kids believe it. They feel the shame. They feel the embarrassment. The same way if they've sent a nude photo, they will tell them, come right back. And especially these foreign national cartels to our young boys, it's too late. You're damaged. You might as well take your life. Those kinds of words, you're ruined. Nobody's going to ever love you again. We need to understand that it is never too late to change. It is never too late for a comeback. There is no such thing as damaged goods. Okay, you made a decision, it wasn't the right decision, and you paid a very large price for it. But mistakes should not control your life. What we need to do is teach our kids to rise up and stand against this. You are not keeping me down. Okay, I made a mistake. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to fix my life, and I'm going to get myself away from the people who bring me down. I'm going to rise up. You lose, I win, and I am valuable. I choose to be valuable because it is a gift I give myself, and you are not going to keep me down. So you may not be able to change the decisions that you made in your past life. Many times it is just out there. And especially where our kids live their lives online, we must start that dialogue today, because those photos, those decisions they made online will be out there forever. And there will be a large number of people that try to take advantage of that, either to seduce them into sex trafficking, or seduce them into sending money, or seduce them into believing that they have to go out and do things they normally would never do in order to keep their secret safe. Walk away from that. I am better than that. I am good. I am valuable. I made a mistake, and I am going to turn that mistake around right now. And I think that that's so important. We need to teach this generation of kids to be leaders, to stand against this. We need to have these dialogues with our kids about cognitive reasoning, about knowing our values, about talking about the decisions they made, and did they work and did they not work, and help them get success even from their mistakes. None of us ever do it right every time. None of us. And now you're aware of that, because I'm saying it right on the radio, and I make mistakes, okay? And it is what it is. Some mistakes will be more costly, but that does not mean that you have to subject yourself to a life of subserviency, a life of abuse, a life of being put down. And we need to talk to our kids about relationships. Is it an exploitative relationship where they're keeping you down, or is it an empowering relationship where they're building you up? Are they asking you to do things that you cannot stand for, or others that are doing it? You can come along and you can decide, I am valuable. I want to be somebody. I want to go somewhere. And I am too valuable to give in to all this online exploitation. I'm not going to do that. I am not going to sneak out and meet somebody I met online. I know better than to do that. And you need to have these kinds of conversations with your children. Talk about cognitive reasoning. To look at the decisions they made that day and how did they turn out? And are some of them good and some of them not so good? Give your kids a sense of confidence that they make good decisions and that they're valuable and they're worthwhile. And if you grew up in that environment, the way for you to heal, you may need to get counseling. But I'd encourage you to look up Dr. Wayne Dyer. He doesn't know I'm doing this. I don't even know if he's still functioning, but look at some of his work. Because just because this happened when you were a child does not make you a bad person. It is that self-talk you want to turn around. I was so appreciated with Brian Cox at BBC television. You are that little girl. You are that little boy. Carry that photograph of yourself, but realize that is a fine young person. Maybe that young person got violated. Maybe people took advantage of them. Maybe they went through some hardship growing up, but they also went through a whole lot of good. If you're having this conversation with yourself, then you realize that you have the opportunity to be a leader for your kids and your grandkids and all those innocent little kids out there that attend my church. It is so refreshing to see it. Well, folks, my name is Opal Singleton. The organization is Million Kids. We're at a fork in the road. I don't know quite where it's going to go. We are still in business. We are still saving lives. We are reaching out there. We've trained more than 750,000 people eye to eye, and God knows how many by Zoom. I don't count all of those. But it is all about keeping our kids safe from predators. And that is why this company exists. That is why people like Dina and Linda and Clark and Tanya Holt and I can't even think of all the people that work with us to do this. We want to get the word out. If you know somebody that'd like to sponsor this show, well, I certainly appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to do this. We have 2 more airings we're going to be on. I want to make them the best that we can. We will continue using social media and like that and outreach and a lot of public presentations, but I would love to have this missionary work that we do online with the radio company to be able to make a difference, because I meet you out there. I see you. You'd come up and tell me who you are. And I'm like, really? I'm like a little kid. Oh my gosh, you listen? No. But it's all about changing lives, empowering each other and finding the good in each other. That's really what this is all about. To be able to understand how to help this next generation go into the most technological, advanced generation that has ever lived. You know, the world of AI can be very good, but it can be very painful. And we as parents and grandparents owe it to them to be able to go in and bulletproof our kids so they can live in a technology world as leaders. And I see the changes going on in our country and the wanting to do good for ourselves and other countries. Well, this is how you do it, and you do it with technology, and you do it with training at the soul and the heart by letting kids know we believe in you. You are here. You are valuable. Self-esteem's a gift you give yourself. Don't take the low road. You're too darn good for doing that. But if you end up taking the low road, realize even though it's painful, you can make that choice and that you can get back out and you can move on. We need each and every one of you, grandma, grandpa, parents out there, to think this out and begin to literally, I believe this is the greatest mission of all time, the greatest calling of God of all time. If you're a parent and you're a grandparent, I cannot think of any more precious calling than to be able to make the influence on the next generation. We may not be able to change the world politically. Maybe we can't even change the world financially. But what we can do is instill values, instill self-esteem, instill support, instill forgiveness in this next generation. That's what it's all about. If you want to support the work of Million Kids, it is Million Kids, MILLION, millionkids.org. You go right there and you donate, or you can write to me if you want to and share your thoughts. We'll probably only be around a couple more weeks, but I would love to hear from you. If you've been a listener for a long time and this show has helped you, it would really help me to hear from you. So you can do that at Opal, OPAL. What an interesting name, right? Anyway, Opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. Folks, put your arms around your spouse. Let them know you're proud of them. Put your arms around your family. Let them know that they mean the world to you and that you believe in them.